proposition. So H is given to be a Hilbert space. M is the closed linear subspace of H. M perpendicular then, so let's say, or more directly we can write that, then H is nothing but M direct sum M perpendicular. So proof. M is a closed linear subspace of H. M perpendicular is the set collection of all those U belonging to H such that inner product of U with H is equal to 0 for all X belonging to M. Note that M perpendicular is a closed subset. We have proved this earlier. It is a closed subspace of H. We consider W as M direct sum M perpendicular. Okay. So W is what? W is a element of the type, so it is the sum of X plus Y such that X belongs to M, Y belongs to M perpendicular. So if Z belongs to W, there exists what we say R and S in M and M perpendicular respectively, such that Z is equal to R plus S. Okay. And this representation is unique. We have seen this thing. It's easy to check. Is unique. Okay. The claim is that W is equal to H. By previous proposition, what do we have? That W is closed linear subspace of H since M is perpendicular to M perpendicular, and M perpendicular both are what? Closed subspace. So if so, proof by contradiction. If W is not equal to H, let's assume this thing. So proof by contradiction, what we are saying. Then, previous proposition, there exists a Z0 belonging to H such that Z0 is non-zero and Z0 is perpendicular to W. Since W is equal to M direct sum M perpendicular, this clearly implies that Z0 belongs to M not belong to, Z0 is already in, what we can say? Since Z0 is in H, Z0 is perpendicular to W, objects in M, so 0, let's write that. Since 0 belongs to M and 0 belongs to M perpendicular, in fact, M intersection M perpendicular is just the singleton zero set. If this is the case, then what do we have? Is that we can write this H as, or rather, W is there. No? So W is M plus M perpendicular. So objects of the type M plus 0, they also belong to W. And 0 plus maybe say M dash belongs to W, where M belongs to capital M, small m belongs, M dash belongs to M perpendicular. Okay, you have these things, and Z0 is perpendicular to W. From here, so we write here. So what does this imply here is that Z0 is perpendicular to M and Z0 is perpendicular to M dash also. What M and M dash are arbitrary. So what does that imply? This means that where does the Z0 belongs? This implies that Z0 belongs to, from here, if you consider this object M perpendicular, so let's write more properly. Z0 belongs to M perpendicular. From this argument, this implies this thing. And from here, what does this imply? Z0 belongs to M perpendicular space. In other words, this implies that Z0 belongs to M perpendicular intersection M perpendicular. But M perpendicular is subspace, M perpendicular double perpendicular is also subspace. This has to be singleton 0. So this implies that Z0 must be the 0 vector, which is contradiction to the fact that existence of Z0 non-zero. So our assumption is false. And it's established. Therefore, W is equal to H, or H is equal to M direct sum M perpendicular. So for Hilbert space, this is, so in Banach spaces we don't have this one. So in here, H is a Hilbert space, has always such decomposition. So projections, we will consider projection here are better. An additional condition of self-adjoint. So what we will see is that self-adjointness also will require. So at least we have that in a Banach spaces, projections were there. If M is a closed linear subspace, we are unable to find another closed linear subspace. The direct sum is B. But in Hilbert space, the moment you have one closed linear subspace, you can look at its perpendicular space. The sum of these two things gives this thing. H is M direct sum M perpendicular. So this finishes this section. Now let's talk of what is called as an orthonormal set. In a Hilbert space. So let H be Hilbert. S is a subset of H. S is said to be orthonormal if each of the vector in S is of norm 1 or unit vector, and any two distinct vectors in S are orthogonal, rather mutually orthogonal. Such a set is said to be an orthonormal set. So what would be some observation? So suppose I have H is given to be Hilbert space. And suppose I take S to be the singleton 0. Then the set S is not orthonormal set. This is important. Why is it so? Since the norm of 0 is 0. The norm of 0 is 0. That so it's not a unit vector. The elements of S are not unit vectors. That's a problem. If suppose H is a Hilbert space, if H is a Hilbert space, then any set having the 0 vector in it cannot be orthonormal set. The proof is as simple as that. Suppose W is a subset of H and 0 belongs to W. This implies that norm of 0 is equal to 0, which is not 1. So W cannot be orthonormal set. Of Hilbert space H. Conversely, what we can say, singleton element 0 is not there. If suppose, take any X belonging to H, if H is Hilbert and H non-zero, so take a X belonging to H such that what happens? X is non-zero. We take this way, then we can look at norm of X certainly is non-zero. Now consider the following vector. Consider the following vector y, which is x upon norm of x. Okay. Then norm of y is nothing but norm of y upon norm of y. Okay. Let alpha is equal to 1 upon norm of y. This is the object in the field. Okay. This implies that norm of y would be what? 1 by alpha would be mod by mod alpha times norm of y. Sorry, alpha itself is this one. So this is norm of alpha y, which is the same thing as mod alpha times norm of y, which is the same thing as 1 upon norm of y times norm of y, which is equal to 1. So norm of y is equal to 1. So what we can say? We can say that the set singleton y is what set? Orthonormal set. Note that inner product of y with y is what? 1. Inner product of y with y is norm of y square, which is 1. and the length of y is also 1, and this is the thing. The next thing is what any orthogonal set. We have seen that orthogonal set sets in H can be changed to form orthonormal sets. And what's the procedure? Suppose I have S is a set. S is a set which is orthogonal. Maybe say I have two elements. So suppose X alpha is there. Alpha belonging to lambda. Lambda is an indexing set. Okay. And if you take any X alpha is not equal to X beta, then this clearly implies that X alpha is perpendicular to X beta. Why? Because this is what orthogonal set. Any two distinct elements, they are what mutually orthogonal. So X alpha is perpendicular to X beta, and because it is an orthogonal set, okay, what we can do is that how to change, the word change is there. So if 0 belongs to S, remove it. Okay. If 0 belongs to S, remove it, and then the remaining elements. What are the remaining elements? So consider the set S minus 0. You consider this set, and then in this set take any two elements. Maybe say if X beta and X gamma belong to S minus 0, then you can certainly do that X beta is non-zero and X gamma is also non-zero. So you can look at X beta divided by norm of X beta, and you can also consider X gamma divided by norm of X gamma. Now the norm of this object and norm of this object is, so this is 1, so this is unit norm. This is norm is 1, norm is 1, okay. So we have this and this, so you divide. So what is the procedure, then how to change that? Remove 0, orthogonal set, and normalize every remaining vector. To get orthonormal set. Later we will see that what is called as the Gram-Schmidt orthonormalization. Process that give. Okay, so this would be done later. Examples of orthonormal sets. So consider Rn x1, x2, xn. Each of this xi is a real number. This set with maybe say 2 norms on it. That is, this is the space is L2n. That is summation mod xi square I going from 1 to n. This is finite. So norm of x, and this is because they are finite many terms, so there is not an issue. Now what we have is that we consider the following set. The standard base is what we call E1 is 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. E2 is what? 0, 1, 0, 0, E3 is what? 0, 0, 1, 0, and so on. So what is En? So Ei is 0, 0, 0. So here it is 1 and then all zeros. This is what position? This is the ith position. Okay. This is ith position, which is this one. Right. I is going from 1 to n. Then if you consider the set S, which is what? E1, E2, E3 and so on, then what do we have? We have the following. Note that inner product of EI with EJ would be what? Summation of the objects here. So what would be the term surviving? Okay. So as a delta ij, a chronicle delta could also be used. Or let's write that 0, 0, 0, 1 and then 0, and here this is EI maybe. EI's position, and then it is 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, and so on. Yeah. This is maybe say EJ. If I is not equal to J, so, and suppose J is less than equal to strictly less than I, so what would happen? This would be 0 into 0, this term dot product, this term dot product, this term dot product, 0 plus 0 into 0, and then it would be 0 into 1. This is what position? This is the jth position. Okay, plus 0 into 0 plus 1 into 0, which would be this term. This would be the ith position dot product, 0. So which is nothing but essentially 0. So if I is not equal to j, what we have got is that inner product of EI with EJ is equal to 0 if I not equal to j. If I is equal to j, then clearly what do we have? 0 into 0, and in the ith position 1 into 1. So this is what position? Ith position. If 0 into 0 is the ith position, which is what? It is 1. So in other words, the inner product of EI with EI, this is equal to 1. EI with EI, this is equal to 1. So the norm of EI square is 1, which implies that norm of EI is equal to 1 for all I going from 1 to n, and inner product is 0. So this is mutually orthogonal set, orthogonal elements of unit norm. Hence, it is an orthonormal set. The same thing which we have done can also be done for L2. What is L2? Infinite tuple. So we know that L2 is what? A typical element would be x1, x2, continuing. This is infinite tuple. Okay, countably infinite. Tuple. And what do we have? We have that each of these xi is belonging to R. This is our L2. And if you take this thing, and it is also further given that summation mod of xi whole square I going from 1 to infinity, this is bounded. This is L2. So again the basis here, and another orthonormal set would be the same EI, but now our EI would have been infinite. 1, 0. First place is 1, rest all 0, continuing infinitely. E2 is what? 0, 1, 0, continuing this thing, and so on. So the set S, which is what? E1, E2, E3. This is S is orthonormal set of L2. Now let's come to what is called as the Bessel's inequality. Okay. a finite case. Basis inequality. So what does this mean? Finite and so on. Let H be Hilbert space, and the set be its finite orthonormal set. If X is in H, any vector, then the following is true. What is true? Summation I going from 1 to n mod of inner product of x with ei whole square, this is less than equal to norm of x whole square, the first part. And if you look at the second part, which says that what? So let's draw this part. X minus summation inner product with x with ei, I going from 1 to n. This vector is perpendicular. This vector is perpendicular to Ej for all j. So what does this say? These are called as the Fourier coefficients also. If you take the sum of the, if you take the inner product of x with e, you square them, absolute value. You take, if it is real, then you just take absolute value. If it is complex, then take modulus and square it. You add these numbers, then the norm of x, whatever the norm of x is in h, this is bounded by that. And if you take inner product of x with ei, which is a scalar, which is over here, this is a scalar. So let's write that. So if you consider x with ei, this is belonging to the field. So this is a scalar. Consider this scalar, then ei, it's a this is scalar. This is scalar multiple of scalar multiplication to the vector ei. You have this thing. Then this is a vector, and you consider this as a object in H, which is x minus inner product of x with e1 minus inner product of x with e2 continuing this thing, x with en this vector in H is perpendicular e1, e2, e3 each. So what does this say? This produces another vector which is perpendicular to the this e1, e2, en, which is normal set, and another orthogonal. So x upon norm of x, if you take that, a new vector. So this is one way to increase the size of an orthonormal set. What will come later is what is called as the complete orthonormal set. Okay, let's try to prove this thing. So proof. Consider the following object. So since we are dealing with this, what we have just discussed, which is what? X minus summation inner product of x with ei, I going from 1 to n, this summation. Let's write properly.